has been filed for the AR3 apartment residential district portion of the site and commits to a site plan with a maximum of 230 dwelling units. Variances to permit use of the structured parking in the AR3 portion of the site for up to 48 commercial parking spaces related to the commercial uses on the adjacent CPD commercial plan development district, and to reduce the parking setback line, minimum number of parking spaces required, building lines and rear yard are included in the request. The council variance will be heard by city council and will not be considered at this development commission meeting. There's no adopted land use plan in place at this location. However, it does have early adoption of the Columbus citywide planning policy design guidelines. CGP2 design guidelines call for high quality building materials, landscaping between residential and non-residential uses, and to enhance aesthetic appeal and the provision of bicycle parking. The site is located within boundaries of the Harrison West Society, whose recommendation is for approval. The development tax commencement site plan commits C3 commercial uses and includes development standards addressing setbacks, access, parking, landscaping, building design, lighting, and graphic commitments. Modifications to the landscaping and screening, minimum numbers of parking spaces required, minimum number of loading spaces required, screening, and C3 district setback lines are included in the request. The requested CPD, Commercial Plan Development District, and AR3 Apartment Residential District will allow a commercial and multi-unit residential development that is consistent with the established development pattern of the neighborhood. Planning Division staff are supportive of the requested parking variant for parking reduction as the site is within a mixed-use area with access to transit and additional bicycle parking above code required minimum is provided, consistent with C2B2 design guidelines. Planning Division staff continues to encourage site plan revisions and integrate surface parking into the structure and include additional landscaping, but will not condition support on these changes. Note, a right-of-way dedication exemption request still needs to be filed and reviewed. However, the Division of Traffic Management supports this request and has no further comments on this application. City Department's recommendation is for approval. We'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, we've heard the traffic is okay with this. Anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, a traffic impact study and a parking study have been approved for this application. As Kelsey mentioned, the right-of-way dedication exception request would still be needed. So that's, I think, the solution.
Okay. And Kathy?
The recreation parks comments have been included.
Okay.
Planning is no further comment.
Okay. Is there anyone here to speak regarding application number 1 tonight? Okay, you have area commission approval, staff approval, and is there anything you'd like to add to the presentation?
Sure. Thank you, members of the commission, staff, community. We're appreciative of the chance to be here tonight. To say this has been a long road would be an understatement. To weather COVID and many other twists and turns along the way would be an understatement. This has been a really exciting project, and we're thrilled to be at this stage. To have staff support and the Harrison West Society on board has been really beneficial, and frankly, without Harrison West input, we wouldn't be where we are today in the project. We're thrilled to present it to you today and would greatly appreciate your support and approval this afternoon. Dave and I are happy to answer any other questions if you have any.
Well, it's very helpful when you've done all the homework that you've done over the last 2 years before you get here. If anyone has any questions, speak now, or we shall call the roll. Okay.
Marty Anderson,
Yes.
Amanda Golden,
Yes.
John Emerson,
Yes.
Daniel Woodward,
Yes.
Denise Key Shanklin,
Yes.
Eric Fitzpatrick.
Yes, you are approved. Thank you very much. Okay, case number 2, Z21-027, 1930 Hard Road.
The 1.2 acre site consists of one parcel developed with a fuel sales facility and part of another parcel developed with a shopping center, both zoned in the C4 commercial district. The requested CPD commercial plan development district will permit a redevelopment of an expanded retail fuels sales facility with accessory convenience retail and eating and drinking components. To the north and east is a shopping center in the C4 commercial district. To the south across Hard Road is an apartment complex in the LAR 12 Limited Apartment Residential District. To the west across Smoky Road Road is a retail pharmacy in the LC4 Limited Commercial District. The site is located within the boundaries of the Northwest Plan, which recommends commercial land uses for this location. The plan's design guidelines encourage buildings to be placed at corners with parking and circulation to the rear. The development text establishes use restrictions, commits to a site plan, landscape plan, and building elevations, and includes supplemental development standards that address setbacks, access, landscaping, building materials, dumpsters, screening, and graphics. Modification of code standards to permit parcel lines to divide parking spaces, aisles, and maneuvering areas, and for a parking space reduction from 34 required to 31 provided spaces are included in the request. A Board of Zoning adjustment is pending for the adjacent shopping center to permit parcel lines to also divide parking spaces, aisles, and maneuvering areas, and also for a parking space reduction. The site is located within the boundaries of the Far Northwest Coalition, whose recommendation is for approval of the requested CBD district. At the time this staff report was finalized, the traffic impact study is still in progress, and the right-of-way dedication exception request is still pending results of the traffic impact study. There may be a need for commitments for this site to implement off-site improvements or access changes based on the results of the improved traffic impact study, which could result in site plan revisions. There may also be a need for additional right-of-way dedication along the Hard Road and or Smoky Row Road frontages of this site, even if the dedication amount is ultimately determined to be less than what's required by the multimodal thoroughfare plan dimensions. The requested CPD commercial plan development district will allow redevelopment of a retail fuel facility with accessory convenience retail and eating and drinking components. Although planning division staff encourages site design that places the building at the corner with parking and circulation to the rear for greater consistency with Northwest Plan guidelines, staff notes the proposal largely reuses the existing footprint and parking and circulation areas fronting Hard Road and Smoky Row Road are screened with additional landscaping consistent with plan guidelines. Staff are thus supportive of the site plan and elevation rendering included with the request. Additionally, the proposal is consistent with the land use recommendations of the Northwest Plan. The recommendation will be updated to approval upon an approval of the traffic impact study with the necessary commitments added to the CPD text, resolution of the right-of-way dedication exception request, and site plan revisions as required by the Division of Traffic Management. So therefore, City Department's recommendation is conditional approval at this time. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions? Dan, traffic?
As Shannon mentioned, the traffic impact study is still in progress for this application, and that will be resolved prior to the case being heard by City Council. Otherwise, I have nothing to add to the staff report.
Are these entangled traffic issues or just house cleaning? Okay.
There's some outstanding details related to the access points that are on the adjacent shopping center property that need to be worked out.
Okay. And the applicant knows that you've got a duty to mesh with the city.
Yes, my name is Rebecca Mott with the Plain Law Firm, and what we've done is the traffic impact study, and we have shown improvements to Smoky Row Road, a right turn-in lane that was at the suggestion of the City Traffic Division.
Okay.
We have 2 right-in curb cuts into the UDF parcel. In the shopping center, that is a different parcel, not subject to this application, has 2 full curb cut access points on Hard Road and Smoky Row Road also.
Okay.
We're still going to work with the City Traffic Division on any and all comments they have. We have submitted a right-of-way dedication exception, I think about 6 months ago. So that's in to the city. So we will continue to work with the city on that.
All right.
Now, UDF is very pleased though with these elevations. This is their newest prototype. They've developed 2 prototypes in the last 2 years. This will be the first one of this modern style used in the Central Ohio area. So they're very excited about this plan. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, that's great. Let me check with Kathy and with Chris, and then we'll see if there's any questions that arise. Kathy?
You've got no additional comments.
Okay, and Chris?
No additional comments from planning.
All right, is anyone here to speak regarding application number 2? Okay, does anybody have any questions regarding the new model of sheets?
United Dairy.
or United CDL. I thought anything that looked good was labeled. No questions? Okay, I think you've answered the big question is how much cloud cover there was over the parking and right away. So unless anybody has any questions, please call the roll.
Amanda Golden,
Yes.
John Ingwerson,
Yeah.
Taylor Mukwe,
Yes.
Denise Keith Schenklin,
Yes.
Marty Anderson.
I just don't, I think it's a little premature and I don't think there's any such animal as conditional approval. So I'll say no just because I believe that.
Okay, you're approved?
Thank you very much.
Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes. Now you're approved. Okay, case number 3. Z22-011 514 Taylor Avenue.
The 0.88 acre site consists of 7 parcels, all of which are undeveloped in the R3 residential district. The requested AR2 apartment residential district will permit a multi-unit residential development. To the north of the site is a surface parking lot in the R3 residential district. To the south is a former elementary school building in the R3 residential district. To the west is a single unit dwelling in the R3 residential district, as well as undeveloped land in CPD, commercial plan development district. To the east are single unit dwellings in the R3 residential district. The site is within the planning boundaries of the Near East Area Plan, which does not give a specific land use recommendation for the site. However, the plan does outline a development strategy that identifies the area as part of a corridor of lower and medium density residential. Concurrent CV 22-013 has been filed for a 48-unit apartment building and includes variances to reduce the minimum number of interior parking lot trees from 6 to 0, to remove the perimeter parking lot landscaping requirement, while proposing to add perimeter parking lot landscaping outside of the property lines, to reduce the minimum number of required parking spaces from 72 to 54, to remove the required vision clearance triangle at the intersection of Emerald Avenue and the north-south alleyway to the east, and to reduce the building's minimum building setback line from 25 feet to 12 feet. That request will be heard by City Council and will not be considered at this Development Commission meeting. The site is located within the boundaries of the Near East Area Commission, whose recommendation had not been received at the time this report was finalized. City Department's recommendation is for approval. The requested AR2 apartment residential district will allow a multi-unit residential development. While the Near East Area Plan does not have specific recommendation for this site, Taylor Avenue has been identified as an area recommended for new housing development, including the consideration of multi-unit housing. Additionally, the plan recommends securing vacant land for redevelopment. Additionally, Planning Division is generally supportive and recommends updates to the site plan, included with the concurrent council variance CV 22-003 for landscape parking lot screening on the north and south, street trees along the Taylor Avenue frontage, and shade trees near the public patio. This is also consistent with Recreation Parks Department's request for additional trees in the proposed green space to offset the requested variance to eliminate the required interior parking lot trees. The request does not represent incompatible use to the surrounding area. I'll take your questions.
Any questions? Okay, traffic on this one, Dan?
We have no comments on this rezoning application, though we do have some outstanding comments on the site plan that was resolved with the concurrent council variance.
Okay. Kathy, Recreation Parks?
Recreation Parks is supportive, as noted. The additional trees are going to offset what is lost from the variance, so we will increase that canopy over.
Great. Okay, Chris?
Planning Division has no further comments for Recreation Parks and the tree issue.
All right, is anyone here to comment on case number 3 tonight? Okay, no comments. Anybody have any questions for the applicant?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I just wonder where the Near East Area Commission is on this.
Mr. Hodge can probably talk to this, but they actually had a concurrent meeting tonight of this meeting, and I'm sure Mr. Hodge can answer the question.
So we have been working pretty closely with the Near East Area Commission. We've been to their planning committee, their zoning committee, and their Saturday morning site visit zoning committee meeting. The result of the zoning committee was unanimous approval. There were 2 abstentions. And we will be meeting with the Near East Area Commission this evening at 6:30 for their final recommendation to council on the project. But so far, it's been very well received, very positive, and everyone that cast a vote Saturday morning cast it in favor.
Mr. Hodge, I have a question.
Yes.
This is a gateway building to the neighborhood. I know that you've worked on other projects that have incorporated public art into those facades. I would like to make a request that you consider a mural on that blank facade that doesn't seem to have any windows on it already, welcoming people to the Near East Side.
So my clients are here. This is a development that involves PACT.
Yep.
And really, it's a vacant piece of property here on the east side of Taylor. The PACT plan, which didn't get incorporated into staff's remarks, does call for this type of development. I know that's not the answer to your question. If there is a blank facade that is north facing as you come down on the Taylor off of 670, it wouldn't be the first time that Aaron Crease has complied with a suggestion that there be some public art incorporated. And so, Aaron, if you want to speak to that and your thoughts on some art on a blank facade on the building.
We'll probably have to work with the PACT board as we have through all the design and density and everything. So as long as there can be some leeway to working with their approval, I'd be happy to.
Great. I know the Near East Area Commission has been requesting murals and public art on many of the new developments that are coming into the neighborhood. So I think this would be a great addition to this as well.
The other thing that I would say, Ms. Golden, is as you go south on Taylor, there's the building that was recently redeveloped. It was really a vacant, dilapidated townhouse structure that has kind of a little parking lot on the north side. It has a blank facade facing to the north.
I also know that property owner and I've asked multiple times.
And I have a relationship with him. I said Maryland. I don't think it's Maryland. It's Greenway.
Yeah.
It's at the corner of Greenway and Taylor. And so let's all use our relationships with them to see if we can get something going on.
Let's do
as
two.
well.
Two.
Ours could theoretically end up with a building on that quarter-acre lot in front of ours.
Sure.
Just as letting everybody know, we don't own or control that site. So
Yeah, so the northernmost vacant residential piece of property here is unfortunately not part of the development. It's not for a lack of trying, so there could eventually be something there. Let me make one other quick comment about the site plan and the parking lot trees. We have actually accommodated that. That was a criticism. We'll continue to work with Christopher and the folks planning on addressing those site plan issues, but we have incorporated shade trees into the parking lot. We still have a variance because I think the city code calls for that to be in something like 122 square foot area, and we're asking for that to be reduced, but we do have shade trees in this park.
All right, how do we leave this on the mural question? Are you?
So I just.
So let me answer the question.
Yeah.
So PACT and Keith Myers and the folks at Ohio State have been very heavily involved in the planning aspect of this. And I think that the answer to the question, Chair Fitzpatrick, is with PACT's support of a mural, we will do it. Contingent upon PACT's willingness to allow us to do it.
Okay,
I'm scared to speak on their behalf with their approval on the project.
Are you guys partnering with PACT? I'm just interested.
We answered an RFP,
Okay.
and in that RFP, they had ultimate say in the design, density, parking ratios, everything. So what you're mostly seeing tonight with some adjustments for like islands and stuff as the PAC board approval as well.
And these are all market rate.
There is an affordable component because we're working with the Affordable Housing Trust.
Sure.
So some are market rate.
all right, well, there's no time like the first time to get a piece of mural.
Yep, and I agree. I just don't know how to agree for them.
You have our commitment to ask the question of PACT and the folks at Ohio State, and if their answer is yes, there will be a mural on the north facade.
Great.
We'll, let's put that language into the text.
There is no text, so this is an unrestricted AR district, so
Okay.
I don't know if their word is good enough. We could add a condition to the concurrent council variance if there's really strong thoughts that needs to be included with.
I'm not a disbeliever, I just want to make sure the paperwork is as good as it can be before this goes to the next level.
Since I'm a frequent flyer at Development Commission, I like everybody here to believe that I'm a man of my word, and I'm happy to have it in the council variance or any place else that's appropriate.
Okay, so we could just add a section to the council variance that states that if approved by
PACT.
PACT, that there will be a mural on the base of the building.
Doesn't happen. But
Well, and if that's successful, you may be able to bill for a pair of socks. Okay, please call the roll.
John Ingwerson,
yeah,
Kayonn Mukwe,
Yes.
Denise Keith Shanklin,
Yes.
Marty Anderson,
Yes.
Amanda Golden,
Yes.
Sheriff Fitzpatrick.
Yes, you're approved.
Thank you all.
Okay, case number 4, Z21-008, 6201 Winchester Pike.
The 42.2 acre site consists of a portion of 2 undeveloped parcels zoned in the LC4 limited commercial, LM2 limited manufacturing, and CPD commercial plan development districts, with the north and west portions of the site located in the floodplain. The requested LM2 limited manufacturing district will permit development of an industrial warehouse and distribution facility. To the north is undeveloped land, and northeast across Winchester Pike is an apartment complex, both in the LAR 12 limited apartment residential district. To the east is a car wash and undeveloped land in the CPD commercial plan development district, and further east is a pending zoning to the CPD commercial plan development district for a fuel cells facility. To the south is an automobile dealership, and to the west is undeveloped industrial land, both in Winchester. The site is located within the Southeast Land Use Plan, which recommends a deployment center and open space land uses for this location. Columbus citywide planning policies, design guidelines are also applicable to the site. The site is located within the boundaries of the Greater Southeast Area Commission, whose recommendation is for disapproval of the requested LM2 district. The limitation text includes use restrictions, setbacks, access and traffic provisions, internal street trees, landscaping and screening, pedestrian paths, lighting and preservation area controls, and a commitment to the attached site plan which reflects site access, setbacks, landscaping, and pedestrian paths. A traffic impact study has been approved for this application, and the necessary traffic-related commitments are included in the limitation text. The requested LM2 limited manufacturing district will permit industrial development consistent with land use recommendation of the Southeast Land Use Plan. The site plan includes appropriate landscaping along the boundaries of the site, shade trees along the access drive, and the inclusion of a trail segment going toward the stream corridor as recommended by C2P2 design guidelines. The Planning Division continues to encourage consultation with Recreation and Parks Department on potential dedication and future trail development of the stream corridor. And I think those conversations are underway. City Department's recommendation is for approval. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Questions? Dan, traffic.
Nothing to add to the staff report, but if there are any questions about the traffic impact study.
Okay. Kathy?
We have been having some conversations with the development team and are really supportive of the additional 12 acres that will come as parkland in this area. It's a great corridor to partner between recreation parks and metro parks and the community to further expand our greenway trails connectivity and also be able to protect the natural resources that are in this area. So thanks to our partners in planning and our team, as well as developers, for having some open conversation to make this happen.
Great. Hey, Christopher, planning?
No further comments. Great to hear.
Okay, is anyone here to speak regarding application number 4? No one is here. Anything that you would like to add to the staff's presentation?
Well, one thing, and this is, we heard what Recreation and Parks had to say, and it was a little bit new to Christopher. I hoped to have gotten to you in advance of the meeting today, but I didn't do that. You see the cross hatching on this plan. That's across George's Creek. I've been working very hard with Brad Westall and then recently Kathy regarding that property. If I could come up to the screen.
Yes.
So we previously, in working with Brad, committed to provide an area on this side of George's Creek and then a 1 acre piece here. Brad was really interested in what was going to happen to this piece of property. So over the course of the last couple of days, I was able to get a commitment to incorporate this piece of property. If this overall is familiar to you, it's because you all have seen this, this property relatively recently. This is a separate zoning, came through the process. The Development Commission recommended approval of convenience and gas here. This is multifamily in and abatements of affordable housing. And this then comes in and finishes off this 12-acre park. Everything crosshatched to the north is existing property owned by the city. And this really furthers a connection to, as Kathy said, connects some greenways and parks all around the city. Now, one thing, this project is another one that's been lingering here for a year plus. It started with others and came over to us, an entirely new team, new council, new developers. The previous project, for whatever reason, was not conducting their traffic impact study. We've got that done. We are committing around $270,000 as a part of this project to the improvement of the intersection of Gender Road and Winchester Pike. We are also in conjunction with Turkey Hill and the multifamily developer making substantial and significant improvements to Winchester Pike as you come down onto the property and down into that intersection. So really a great project, grateful for the city staff's recommendation of approval and hopefully have earned your recommendation on the city council.
Okay, any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
Kathy, what park is that across the street? Or is not a developed park yet?
It's referred to as the Gender Road Parkland right now.
So it's not a programmed park currently?
Not currently.
Okay.
It is within the plans of the next couple of years to have improvements done to it. And really one of the roadblocks we have is trying to get some connectivity into some of this corridor because there are some parks, but not really a great way to access between the park. So this is going to help bring us to the next level.
And I assume there'll be some connectivity to the affordable housing that's north, so they can access whatever creeks and like fun that you guys are gonna program down there for those families.
That's the intent.
Great.
My cross hatching covers up some of the trail that was included in that. The other thing that we did, and we may have to come back and fix this, is this multifamily zoning included a portion of this property. So I've got to go back and fix that because that developer also, I twisted their arm. They're gonna give that to recreation parks too. So the entire cross hatching is going to go into that. And Amanda, I've got an exhibit here that's worth looking at. You see this little, and I've got several of these if everybody wants to see them. The little red sliver that I made there is where this particular property is, and you can see the green, all of the various regional parks that this kind of falls down in the middle.
Will this be part of the Rapid 5?
It's not part of that currently. There's still a lot of work to be done to figure out what the next steps are going to be. So.
Great.
Okay, I think, we have, Marty, yes. please.
And, what were the bases, if you know, for the disapproval of the area commission?
Unfortunately, they did not say. So what will probably happen when this ordinance gets submitted to the city clerk's office is that Councilmember Doran's process is to reach out and meet with the area commission to find out what specifically they objected to here.
Is that number?
Oh, I'm sorry. There was a letter attached.
It's on the back.
I'm sorry. I forgot. Yeah, they did write a letter. But anyway, that will be the process that it follows once it gets to city council.
They were concerned with the unknown use.
Yes.
So what was the give and take with Southeast?
So as I mentioned, there was other council involved in that portion of this process. It's my understanding, and as I mentioned, it was a different development team involved. You'll notice that and I've highlighted my portion of their letter, they talk about unknowns and they talk about traffic. So when that group initially met with the area commission, they had not yet had their staff review results. And so they didn't know the city's perspective. They also, and that development team never even started, other than their initial phase of a memorandum of understanding with traffic management, they never started their traffic impact study. So traffic was a big question for this group. and it is a distribution warehouse you see there. And so they wondered how Winchester Pike was going to handle the traffic. We, on the other hand, I've been before this commission enough with an unfinished traffic study, and lots of other folks do too. I know how that goes. We've completed our traffic impact study, which commits us to the 270,000 or thereabouts contribution to the improvement of Winchester Pike and Gender Road, and then the turn lane improvements up and down Winchester Pike along the perimeter here. They also talk about they have a strong preference for the existing zoning on the property. The existing zoning on the property is a mixture of LC4, which is, all of the commercial uses in the world, with a little manufacturing node. This property has sat vacant for many years. It's been actively marketed both for multifamily residential and for big box commercial. Tom Warner here with me has been involved in the marketing. The broker here has been involved in the marketing. This is not a big box retail site. In fact, I've taken a couple of hits here about bringing projects that don't comply with the neighborhood plan. The neighborhood plan here calls this an employment plan, which is why the city staff is in full support of the proposal before you. So, that was a very unrefined request that previous applicant had before Greater Southeast. And we have taken that, and I think in terms of our work with the parks, our improvement of the roads, our contribution of money, have sculpted it into a statue.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, please call the roll.
Kay Mukwe,
Yes.
Denise Keith Shanklin,
Yes.
Marty Anderson,
Yes.
Amanda Golden,
Yes.
John Ingwerson,
Yes.
Jared Fitzpatrick.
Yes, I appreciate the 12 acres.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, moving on to case number 5, Z21-063, 6000 Beechcroft Road.
In your supplemental packet is an updated landscaping plan. The site is developed with a vacant commercial swimming pool in the C4 commercial district. The requested LAR1 limited apartment residential district will permit the development of a multi-unit residential development. The applicant is proposing a 46-unit apartment building. The north of the site is a school in the SR suburban residential district. To the south is a park in the R1 residential district. The east is a multi-unit residential development in the ARLD apartment residential district. The west are single-unit dwellings in the R2F residential district. The site is within the planning boundaries of the Northland 1 area plan, which recommends institutional land uses at this location. The site is located within the boundaries of the Northland Community Council, whose recommendation is for approval as all conditions of their approval have been met. The limitation text provides commitments to a site plan and includes development standards addressing density and the provision of a sidewalk to each property. The requested LAR1 limited apartment residential district will allow multi-unit residential development that is compatible with the development standards of adjacent residential developments. Although the Northland 1 area plan recommends institutional uses at this location, redevelopment for a range of uses may be supported through proposal scale and intensity and reflect surrounding uses and conditions. As the surrounding area is largely residential, and the site is adjacent to a multi-unit residential development to the east, the proposed use is supported. With the revised landscaping plan, the planning division's comments have been addressed, and city department's recommendation is for approval. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so you are now no longer conditional, you are approved.
That is correct.
Okay, any questions or comments for the staff? Dan, traffic?
No traffic issues.
Kathy?
Recreation Parks is supportive. They've been working with us as the existing park is to the south and will be allowing us to have an opportunity for the public to have access to that park.
Okay, Chris?
Planning is now in support as noted.
Okay, great. Is anyone here? We have one speaker. Do you want to add anything to what the staff is?
No, I'm pretty happy.
All right, let's have Dave speak, and if we need to, we'll ask you a question.
Chairman, members of the commission, I'll be very brief. Again, my name is Dave Paul. I chair the Northern Community Council Development Committee. We met with Mr. Glevin on the 30th of March. Our committee was highly supportive of the application, and just as importantly, the neighborhood immediately surrounding it, the Sharon Woods Civic Association, was also very much in approval. The only conditions that we asked to place on it were limitations because the AR1 district would have supported up to 36.3 units per acre. We've asked the applicant to limit that to 18, which is what they were proposing to do, and I believe that's in the text now. And also asked them to construct a sidewalk on the north side of the access drive to this property, which again, I believe they agreed to do. So we do stand in approval, and the vote was unanimous. Made that recommendation.
Very good. Thank you for your expertise in that area.
We appreciate the applicants spending some time with us, and we think it's going to be a good asset to our neighborhoods.
Great.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments for the applicant? Okay, please call the roll. Give us your name for the record, and then we'll call.
My name is Jeff Glavin, and I reside at 92 Hanford Street, Columbus, Ohio, and the firm is Glavin Group LLC, and, you know, we're pleased to be invited to this party. The committee was absolutely wonderful to us.
Okay.
Denise T. Shanklin,
Yes.
Marty Anderson,
Yes.
Amanda Golden,
Yes.
John Ingerson,
Yes.
Dan Wookway,
Yes.
Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes, you're approved.
Thank you.
Okay, case number 6, Z22-007, 5050 Warner Road.
Before I begin, please, with the supplemental staff report, I received 4 letters of opposition regarding this request. And additionally, there is an updated site plan dated 5/12/22 showing the requested sidewalk along Lime Rock Road. The 7.68 acre site consists of 3 parcels, each developed with a single unit dwelling in the R rural district. The eastern 2 parcels were approved for annexation into the city of Columbus with effect on June 1st, 2022. Requested LAR1 limited apartment residential district will permit a multi-residential development containing up to 168 units. North and west of the site are single unit dwellings in the NG neighborhood general district. East of the site is a multi-unit residential development in the LAR1 limited apartment residential district. South of the site is a multi-unit residential development in the LAR12 limited apartment residential district, and a single unit dwelling in the rural district of Plain Township. The current council variance CB 22-005 has been filed to reduce the required perimeter yards along the eastern property line. That request will be heard by city council will not be considered until a development commission meeting. The site is within the boundaries of the Rocky Fork Blacklick Accord, which recommends neighborhood land uses at this location. The site is also located within the boundaries of the Rocky Fork Blacklick Accord with recommendations for approval. Limitation text includes use restrictions, a maximum dwelling unit count of 168 units, and supplemental development standards that address building setbacks, perimeter yard, traffic access, pedestrian activity, tree preservation, building materials, and building design. The text also includes a commitment to develop the site in accordance with the submitted site plan and an example rendering of the architecture proposed for the 3-unit apartment building. The requested LAR1 limited apartment residential district will permit a multi-unit residential development with a maximum of 168 units. That is appropriate for the Rocky Fork Blacklick Accord recommendation and the area's emerging development patterns. Gross density is consistent with adjacent multi-unit residential developments along this section of Warner Road. The request incorporates pedestrian connectivity, ample landscaping, and includes architectural examples for the 3-story apartment buildings that are supported by staff and the Rocky Fork Blacklick Accord, and therefore the State Department's recommendation is approval.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments? Traffic issues, Dan?
Traffic access study has been approved for this application. Necessary commitments have been added to the limitation text.
Great. Kathy?
The tree protection and landscaping, that they put in the text as well.
Okay. Chris?
No further comments?
Okay, is anyone here to speak regarding this application? David, anything you want to add?
Thank you. Dave Perry here as agent for Preferred Living. This project is very similar to what it's adjacent to, Baxter Park, apartment complex that Preferred Living built 3 or 4 years ago. And Rocky Fork Commission Panel has approved the site, and Preferred has gone to great lengths to preserve perimeter tree areas much steeper than the minimum perimeter yard of the code. And then I'll point out to the commission, the site is not contiguous to Lime Rock Drive. There is a 10-foot platted double strip that Dominion Homes platted when they built Lime Rock Drive, so there's no access to Lime Rock Drive, and Preferred has a 35-foot perimeter yard on that side. So adjacent to Lime Rock Drive and the entrance to this particular condominium community, there's a 45-foot area of trees preserved. And to the north, if you look beyond the green color on the site plan, that is a required open space reserve by the condominium zoning. So there's to the houses to the north, there's about a close to a 200-foot separation.
Okay. Any questions or comment from the commission? Okay, please call the roll.
Chair will need a motion to accept the 5/12/22 site plan.
Oh, new site plan. Okay, motion for the 5/12 updated site. Second. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Okay,
Chair, did you ask if there were any speakers? Okay, I just
yes,
thought that maybe one of the opposition people would have shown up.
no speakers. So I believe we're ready to call the roll.
Marty Anderson,
Yes.
Amanda Golden,
Yes.
John Ingerson,
Yeah.
Kay Mugweb,
Yes.
Denise T. Shamplin,
Yes.
Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes, you are approved. Okay, case number 7. D22-008-4526 Gender Road.
The site consists of 3 parcels. 2 parcels are zoned in the R rural district, and the 3rd parcel recently underwent annexation from Madison Township. The parcel pending annexation, that has been assigned a different tax district than the other 2 parcels and cannot be combined. The applicant is requesting the LAR 12 limited apartment residential district to permit development of a multi-unit residential development with up to 140 dwelling units. To the north of the site is undeveloped land in Madison Township. To the south are single-unit dwellings in Madison Township. To the east is a beekeeping supply dealer in Madison Township. And to the west, across Gender Road, is a religious facility in the LR4 Limited Residential District and a single-unit dwelling in undeveloped land in Madison Township. The site is located within the boundaries of the southeast land use plan, which recommends low-density residential land use at this location, which is defined as predominantly single-family development with limited amounts of multifamily. Additionally, the plan includes adoption of Columbus citywide plan policy design guidelines. The site is located within the boundaries of the Greater Southeast Area Commission, whose recommendation is for approval. The limitation text commits to the site plan and includes development standards addressing perimeter yards, access, landscaping, building design, and graphics provisions. The requested LAR 12 limited apartment residential district will allow a multi-unit residential development that is compatible with the development standards of adjacent residential developments. The proposal is also consistent with the land use recommendations of the Southeast Land Use Plan. Staff notes that the site is directly adjacent to the Pickerington Ponds Metro Park and therefore consider additional density to be supportable. Planning Division staff note and are in support of the site plan with additional parallel parking spaces. Staff continues to encourage further exploration of opportunities to reduce the amount of surface parking, but support will not be conditioned on this revision. Planning Division staff also note and are in support of the site landscaping and further acknowledge the provided information on utility crossings and how they will impact the site. City Department's recommendations for approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, Dan, traffic issues, any?
Traffic access study has been approved for this application and the necessary commitments are in the implementation text.
Okay, Kathy?
All our comments have been including in the implementation test.
It's a pretty special site next to Pickerington Ponds, so that's good to hear. Chris?
No further comments.
Okay, is anyone here to speak tonight regarding case number 8? No speakers. 7. That's 7. No speakers, Dave. Anything you want to add?
Dave Perry here on behalf of the applicant as agent. When this project started about a year ago with engagement of the design team, our approach to it was because of the adjacency to Pickerington Ponds, very, very large amounts of open space. Our approach to it was to provide large buffers to the adjacent township single-family homes. And you'll note on the plan to the south and the west that that's 100 feet. And those the buildings to the south are also 2-story rather than 3 stories. So we've provided a very large setback and reduced the building height for that first row of buildings. We engaged all of the abutting single-family homeowners for discussion, and they were very, very happy with the project as proposed. So we've got an apartment complex, but substantially buffered in all directions.
Great. Okay, there are no speakers here. Any questions from anybody in the commission? Yes, Martin?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Is this Kelsey's? Kelsey, when you write in your final recommendation for approval that staff continues to encourage further exploration of opportunities to reduce surface parking, when you encourage things but you don't condition what you're encouraging and acceptance of what you're encouraging on approval, how have you dealt with that? And Dave, if you want to jump in on that, I'm hearing more and more, and Chris, for you too, in the final recommendations, and it's not always surface parking, it's not always one particular issue. Things that planning is encouraging or staff is encouraging, but then staff makes a note, but we're not going to condition our approval. And I'm thinking to myself, well then, where is all this going? And why encourage it if you're not going to insist upon it? So if you could just comment on that, and Dave and Chris.
I'll jump into that, Marty. I agree. There needs to be a conclusion of the comments. This project before you is as depicted on the screen. That's what you're voting on. Planning asked us to work in some parallel parking, so there were some changes made that incorporated 12 parallel parking spaces. They incorporated some additional tree islands. But this is the plan you're voting on. There isn't going to be any material change to this plan going forward, and I agree with you that the comments need to reach a conclusion.
It leaves me, I feel like I'm hanging, that there's some possibility that there's going to be further concessions or further agreements, but you're telling me honestly that there are not.
There are not. And our design concept, as I made for introductory remarks, was to, we have huge amounts of open space to the north and east. And we have township residents that are used to looking at a 12-acre field for who knows how many decades. So the design approach was to use the buffer of the park area and buffer the existing homeowners substantially with both distance with plantings, and with lower building heights on the perimeter. And it was wholeheartedly endorsed by the abutting township homeowners and by the area commission. We're proceeding at this point, and in terms of spreading the buildings more to cut into those 100-foot setbacks and incorporating interior open space, you just disagree with that comment. The open space is the 100-foot setbacks with walking paths and removing the activity substantially from the existing township houses.
Yeah, so just to speak to when we do that, it's really the result of an evolution of
design back and forth between planning and the applicant, whoever that might be in a given case. And there's a professional judgment that has to be made when they reach a threshold where we can support a project, but then bring those comments to the development commission to make a judgment on those particular comments. So in this case, we were asking that they continue to look at opportunities for fewer parking spaces, essentially, lower their ratio to have additional open space within their site plan. But we weren't going to condition it. We wanted to make it clear that that's not a condition of our approval.
And what routes would you have suggested be taken to lower the amount of surface parking? What were the options for the applicant?
So one of the things that they did do, and that's partially why we got to that full support, not conditioning on it, was changing some of their parking to parallel on street for an urban pedestrian friendly setting. Essentially, it would just be removing some of their parking on site and converting it to open space in some form of fashion. But again, the applicant is correct, Dave is correct, that, they have the Metro Park there, they have a significant amount of open space. Commend them for their engagement of the neighbors, and, it's not a small task to get single family township neighbors to endorse the project. They were able to do that, so.
Okay, well, that helps me, and maybe it just helps staff to understand that it always leaves me hanging when I read something like that. I'm not telling you not to say what you believe. I want, the more you tell us, the better. It's just that, at some point in time, it would be useful, I think, for us to know, here's what we would really like them to do. Here's the concessions that were made, which I think you do. It's just the way that particular phrase was written. So thanks to all of you for that.
I have an additional question.
Yeah, sure.
Is there a multi-use path connecting these folks to the Metro Park? Do you plan for that to happen?
Yeah.
There is one?
Yeah,
Awesome.
depicted.
Yeah, and Marty, in general, I think, we look at the feedback from the planning division, and since the development commission is a recommending body and this is not a final decision, we feel that sometimes it is important for the development commission to maybe know of some site design issue that, staff prefers, but like Christopher said, is, we're not conditioning our support on it. Just for your further consideration, if there is, if you feel that further discussion on that topic is merited at the.
No, I actually like that. I actually like it. I just think you're exactly right. It's the further conversation that fills in that, that vacuum. And so it's not that I don't want it mentioned. I really do. I just appreciate the opportunity to say, well, how important would it have been? And what might have been the path to get there, and what concessions were already made? Because you all have done all the work before it comes to us, and we're just really picking up on, the tail end of all the good work that you folks do, along with the applicant and planning. And I like hearing from planning. I just need to know how important it is. And I'm sure that's a scale. I'm
Right.
sure.
Yeah,
the area
if they're
commission-
saying they're not conditioning their support on it, then it's quasi important, but not a deal breaker, so.
All right, that's something to think about. Thank you.
I would just add to the discussion for you all to consider that there are different interests with the different city office review of these projects. And planning routinely supports reduced parking. But we have at least 4 factors involved with parking, and that's planning's recommendation, traffic's recommendation, zoning staff recommendation, and the developer and marketing people for the apartment complex knowing what parking they need to have a viable complex. So these things are often have different opinions and get pushes and pulls in different directions.
Okay, I believe we're ready to call the roll on case number 7.
Amanda Golden,
Yes.
John Ingerson,
Yeah.
Kale Mukwe,
Yes.
Denise Keys Shanklin,
Yes.
Marty Anderson,
Yes.
and Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes, I appreciate your care and planning adjacent to Pickerington Ponds. I think it's a nice touch.
Thank you.
You are approved. Case number 8. Z21-093, 3075 South High Street.
Before I begin, please see the Far South Columbus Area Commission recommendation for approval in your supplemental packet. There's also our revised limitation text and site plan dated 5/12/22. The differences and the updates are mostly in the buffering and landscaping section of the text. 19.25 acre site consists of 2 undeveloped parcels in the R2 residential and CPD commercial plan development districts. The applicant requests the LM Limited Manufacturing District to permit a 5,000 square foot distillery and soda production facility with additional eating and drinking establishment and retail uses on site. North of the site is a multi-unit residential development in the LAR12 Limited Apartment Residential District. South of the site is a self-storage facility in the LM2 Limited Manufacturing District and a commercial building in the Seaboard Commercial District. East of the site is a drive-in movie theater in the Seaboard Commercial District, and west of the site is the Scioto River. The site is within the planning boundaries of the Scioto Southland Area Plan, which recommends office, commercial, and open space land use to this location. The plan also includes early adoption of the C2. The site is located within the boundaries of the Far South Columbus Area Commission, whose recommendation is for approval. The limitation text includes use restrictions, supplemental development standards that address building and parking setbacks, traffic access, pedestrian connectivity, street trees, screening, landscaping, fencing, tree preservation, and a commitment for a proposed conservation easement along the western property line along the Scioto River. Additionally, the text includes a commitment to develop the site in accordance with the submitted site plan. Requested LM Limited Manufacturing District will permit the site to be redeveloped with a 5,000 square foot distillery and soda production facility, additional eating and drinking establishment and retail uses. The requested LM district is consistent with the Scioto Southland Area Plan recommendation for commercial and open space uses at this location. Additionally, with appropriate use restrictions and supplemental development standards addressed in the limitation facts and the commitment to develop the site in accordance with the submitted site plan, staff supports the proposed LM district.
Okay, any questions? Dan, traffic issues?
All traffic issues have been resolved.
And Kathy?
No recreation parks concerns.
Okay, Chris, planning?
No additional.
Okay, is anyone here to speak regarding application number 8? One person. Okay, is there anything you'd like to add to the staff's presentation? Okay, let's hear from our speaker and then we may have a question for you. You let him grab a microphone there at the table. Please come up to the mic. Give us your name for the record and tell us what's on your mind.
Members of the commission, good evening. My name is Bruce Miller. I'm the recording secretary for the Far South Columbus Area Commission, and I am here representing the commission. Last Thursday evening, the commission heard this case for the final time. We started working with the applicant in late December. The vote was a vote of approval, 7 members in favor, 1 against, and 2 abstentions. The applicant worked with the commission very closely. The main concerns that the members of the commission had were concerns of buffering, screening, and noise related to the live music that was proposed on site. There were concerns that in conversations with the applicant that they were going to be bringing, and we went back and checked the tapes to make sure that we had the numbers correct because we record all of our meetings, approximately 1,000 live shows per year to his venue. And we had a concern that there is a little bit further north of this site, a new large multifamily residential unit will be adjacent to the neighboring property. and we had some concerns about that. The applicant graciously agreed to changing the deciduous trees to evergreens. They agreed to mounding, and they agreed to placing their fencing on top of the mounding. And that is all contained in the updated limitation text that you have before you this evening. The applicant indicated that they will have to come back before us regarding the distance issues related to the alcoholic beverage issue, which is not a part of what you are hearing this evening. That will be held and heard at a separate date for that separate variance. I am here mainly to answer any questions that you may have, to tell you how the commission voted, and to tell you that those were the results of our concerns and how the applicant addressed them. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, it appears you've done your homework well and you've achieved some approvals that are very important. Is there any questions or comments from anybody on staff?
Very, very cool.
Very cool. Thank you. Okay. We need a motion to approve the fact that the area commission did vote in favor of this, and also the updated text dated today's date, May 12th. And the site plan that goes with it. Motion? Second? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, please call the roll.
John Ingerson,
Yeah.
Daniel Mukwen,
Yes.
Denise T. Shanklin,
Yes.
Laurie Anderson,
Yes.
Amanda Golden,
Yes.
Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes. Keep it cool.
Thank you.
Okay. Case number 9. Z 21-078, 2590 Morse Road.
A 0.57 acre site consists of 3 parcels, all with a parking lot originally intended to service 2590 Morse Road, previously a religious facility. Property is subject to code violation 18470-01721, since the existing parking lot striping does not conform to the site plan approved with the city's records. The applicant requests the LN Limited Manufacturing District to permit redevelopment of the site, storage warehouse, and parking lot for the sole use of the existing commercial building at 2590 Morse Road. North of the site is undeveloped land in the R Residential District in London Township. South of the site is a commercial building in the LC4 Limited Commercial District. East of the site is a self-storage facility in the C Commercial District in London Township. West of the site is commercial retail in the C Commercial District in London Township and in the C4 Commercial District in the City of Columbus. The site is within the planning boundaries of the Northland One Area Plan, which recommends neighborhood commercial land uses at this location. The site is located within the boundaries of the Northland Community Council with recommendations for approval. The limitation text includes use restrictions and supplemental development standards that address parking setbacks, traffic access, tree preservation, and exterior treatments of the building. The commitment to develop the site in accordance with the submitted site plan is included in the text. The requested LN Limited Manufacturing District will permit redevelopment of the site as storage warehouse and parking lot for the sole use of the retail establishment at 2590 Morse Road. The limitation text includes appropriate use restrictions and development standards. Additionally, the applicant is committed to developing the site in accordance with the submitted site plan. The request is consistent with Northland One Area Plan's recommendation for neighborhood commercial uses and with the zoning and commercial development pattern along this section of Morse Road. Additionally, the request will not add an incompatible use to the area, noting that the storage warehouse and parking lot will be for the sole use of the existing retail establishment at 2590 Morse Road. Therefore, city departments recommend.
Okay. Dan.
Access to Ada Avenue is under the jurisdiction of London Township, and the applicant will need to work with London Township for any necessary permits. Otherwise, we have no concerns with this application.
Okay, Kathy
We have no comments.
and Chris.
No further comments.
Okay, is anyone here to speak regarding this? Anybody other than Dave? Okay, Dave, please come forward.
Thank you, Chair Fitzpatrick. I'll just briefly say that our committee did meet with the applicant on March 30th this year. and their representative. The committee did recommend unanimously that this be approved. The only condition being that they install a bike rack, which I understand they have done. In fact, it's shown on the plan now. So we're quite in support of this application.
Very good, and thank you again for your hard work.
Thanks, sir.
Any other comments by any member? Please call the roll.
Pam Bookway,
Yes.
Denise Keith Shanklin,
Yes.
Marty Anderson,
Yes.
Amanda Golden.
Yes.
John Ingerson,
Yeah.
Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes, you are approved. Okay, we have one last item on the agenda, and that is the electric vehicle parking Columbus update. No action to be taken, just sharing information.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the commission, my name is Tony Celebrezzi. I'm the assistant, demoted myself. I'm deputy director of the Department of Building and Zoning Services. And one of the challenges from the American Cities Climate Challenge that Mayor Ginther managed to win for the city was to continue and improve and increase the number of use of electric vehicles. Over the past 2 years, the city has actually gone above and beyond where most other cities have established. Most cities are at about 3% electric vehicles. City of Columbus with our numbers are at 7%. Let's see, why don't we jump to the next?
Do you want the keyboard, Tony?
You can do it. You can do it.
Yeah, if you just let me know, I'll have to move on through.
Appreciate it. So this is just a hard to read chart, but basically it's showing where many of the cities across the country are and the projections of where they want. We're at 7%. So we are projected to be at 19% here by 2030. And so for whatever reason, people in Central Ohio are adopting and choosing electric vehicles. One of the big challenges and one of the always causes consternation with people that are thinking about buying electric vehicles is the access to charging. And not only in affluent areas, but even in areas, opportunity centers, many people can't afford to put in a charger at their house. And so this legislation will address that by requiring electric vehicle chargers, and there's 3 different levels, in all new parking lots that are developed, and also any new parking or any parking lot that is renovated where they had 20 or more parking spaces. So the concept was that we would be able to get these chargers in place and provide people with the network to support more electric vehicles across the board in the city. Let's see what's next. All right. So I apologize. This is a presentation put together by one of my coworkers, and I heard it this morning for the first time. So, and I'm not always good at staying on message. I tend to start to roll with it. But let's see. So I pretty much we did decide. One of the challenges was figuring out where to put this. And when we deal with the Ohio Building Code for the actual building of buildings and plan review, it didn't make sense, and we also didn't want to get sideways with what the state might or might not require. So we decided we would put it in the off-street parking design portion of the zoning code. That portion covers, street or lighting, the trees, the size of the parking spaces, and lane widths and all that. So put it into design standards, which make it a little easier for us to regulate it and work with it. It also should not add any additional burden to developers because they already have their architects or engineers already going to those sections of the code and making sure that they're in compliance with the zoning section. And of course, zoning clearance reviews every building plan and site plan that comes in to make sure that they have included all these pieces parts from the off-street parking and loading section. I already covered that. To be for new parking lots and parking structures, or the addition of 20 more parking places. We've deliberately tried to leave this vague in that we want to leave a number of things up to the developers. We're trying not to be overly prescriptive because each case, as you all know, and each project has its nuances and customized pieces. So we've got three definitions that are in this discussion. One is called EV capable, another is EV ready, and then electric vehicle supply equipment, which basically means there's a charger installed. And capable is basically the conduit and the electric panel capacity. Ready is actually places wiring in there, and then it ends either in a junction box or is what they commonly term as a dryer plug in more your single family homes. And then the installed is actually having a charger, whether it's a regular charger or a fast charger installed that any vehicle can get plugged into. So we have different percentages that we are asking developers to be to adhere to for the number of spaces. Now, one of the things we did do was, and we actually did this through you all about 2 years ago, maybe 3 now, was we any parking space that is dedicated to an electric vehicle charging station can be counted as a regular required parking space for purposes of zoning. So that way it doesn't didn't put another new burden on the developer. But at the same time, we're also going to, and they will be able to use signage, but we will, as a city, are not going to police that. That is up to the private property owner for the commercial resident or the commercial operator to police that however they want to at this point in time. The other piece with that, or the other concept is, right now we are seeing a lot of third-party vendors coming across the country that will actually bear the cost of installation and operating and maintenance of it, but and thus in return they get to charge for the charging that occurs on there. So it's obviously a revenue generator for that vendor and potentially for the developer. Again, it's up to the developer how they want to do this. Let's go to the next slide. So I mentioned a few seconds ago, we tried to be a little bit more vague. We did have a section to talk about technical specifications. The industry asked us to pull that out and put that in our policy because this stuff is changing so quickly. I mean, all the code enforcement cars that we have actually cannot get charged at a fast charger because they're 3 years old. And that the concept of a fast charger wasn't even around at that point. So, all right, next slide. So what we're looking at is in the residential districts that accommodate 1, 2, and 3 unit dwellings. They will be required. And then the 4, these are the different categories that we'll address here in a moment. Then 4 or more dwelling units or office or workspace. And then there's the English on the right-hand side of multifamily buildings, administrative offices, and so forth. And then all the rest, the other commercial, such as grocery stores, restaurants, retails. We do have a section that addresses affordable multifamily, whereby 50% or more of the units have income restrictions that are monitored by some sort of government agency. And then the City of Columbus, for all off-street parking that is constructed for City of Columbus employees, we have a section there. So let's go ahead. See, I kind of covered this. So again, the EV capable is strictly making sure there's space in the panel for the breaker and the conduit run. This is hopefully in light of this expanding down the road. We learned the hard way in our parking garage. Again, we built that, and then within a year and a half, we put the code enforcement, got all electric cars. We had to retrofit, and it costs 3 or 4 times as much as if we had just done it when we built the parking garage. And so we are actively working with the building industry, and they're happy with this. The EV ready, as I said, does the conduit and the panel space, but it also requires actually placing wiring in the conduit and ending at a junction box or the dryer plug, basically. And then EV installed is the actual charger that is installed, whether it's a single port or a dual port charger. That will actually be there for a customer to use it. Obviously, we've got quite a few around the city, but this ordinance will drastically increase the access and the areas for that. Back up. Sorry. No problem. There are some cost estimates on all of those. We went to our peer cities and found out what their cost estimates were for installing the different levels. And then as a new term that I've never heard, truth verification or something like that. Bottom line is we spent 8 months working with the building industry to get what the true cost would be here in Columbus. I'll have an Orlando example later, but their staff or their worker cost is about 40% less than what we're going through here in Columbus. And so we're judging that right now the installed is going to cost about $5,000 per space. With the ready is going to be roughly, I believe, 2,500, and the capable is right around 1,000. At this point, actually, maybe even a little less than that. Now, obviously, costs are going up, and so those numbers could change, and we've talked with the industry about that, and they're the ones that provide us with much of that data for that. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so as we came up with the 3 different levels, charging levels, and the percentages that you'll see in a few moments, we are looking there. The projection electric vehicle adoption rate is there, and it basically with EV capable by 2040, we're figuring that we're going to have 30% adoption rate of electric vehicles, and thus we're hoping that capable turn into ready or actually installed down the road. See, and then the same with the EV ready is based on a 2030 adoption rate, about 20% of vehicles. And level 2 installers with the near-term projection is going to be about 10%, and I'll talk about that, how we came up with that in a moment. So here's where the rubber kind of meets the road. These are the percentages for the 5 different areas. As you can see, with 1 or 2 or 3 family, we're asking for 1 EV ready. No, not even asking for a cable. We're just asking for the ready space per dwelling in every one. And again, that can be as little as a dryer plug, which does charge and can be used. When you start getting into the multifamily, we're asking 20% for capable and ready, and then 10% actually installed. All the other commercial, we're asking 15% and then 5% actually installed. Drop that for the multifamily to accommodate. One of the questions that we've been asking is, with all the discussion about equity and trying to ensure that everybody has access to these, at this point with the narrow margins that the builders are contending with for affordable housing, and right now the adoption rate in many of the opportunity rising areas of the city is lower than other areas for obvious reasons. We chose to drop those numbers down some, again, trying not to impact the builders and whether real or perceived impact with them. That was a compromise we worked out with them. And then with the city, basically, we want every parking space to be able to be eventually an EV charger added. 60% with capable, 25% ready, and then level 2 charger in about 15% of the spaces. So, this is a scenario that we pulled from Orlando. Sorry, just kind of walks it out on a project that's going to 116 units, and I don't remember what the total cost of the project, but basically of the 174 spaces, 87 of them would be enabled, and still be 87 traditional spaces left. The cost of that is about $144,000. I compare that to a few years ago, we put a short north parking district in, and because they were asking for a lot of variances and we were getting concerned there wasn't enough parking there. And we came up with the concept of working with developers. If you can't meet what code already requires, and in that area, we had already cut the parking requirements in half. And so we ended up with a $25,000 charge for each parking space that they can't meet. And so, you know, that kind of shows you, one, how expensive it is to build any type of parking space. And so the cost of this overall is, being worked out, is roughly less than 5% of most of the projects that this is going to impact. So, you know, I talked about how we try to leave things as open, as general as possible. In this case, it's a retail parking lot with the numbers that we would require. But again, we don't tell them where they need to put the capable, ready, or installed. That's left up to them. The one piece we did put in here to be in compliance with the ADA is one of these electric charging stations needs to be next to an ADA parking space, so that someone that falls under the ADA protections can still charge their vehicle. But other than that, they can put them anywhere they want. So it's interesting where I've seen some recently, just over in Grandview Yard, and they've got a bunch of chargers in one of the parking garages. They're on like the 4th floor or 3rd floor. And I don't know why. I didn't design it, but I just took note of it because it's always interesting to be able to point to something that with where it is. And in this case, in this retail parking lot, the total EV readiness cost was only going to be $10,000 for the 23 spaces. Let's go to the next slide. Excellent. Make sure I covered everything here. I believe that is it. The reason for bringing it to you is we wanted input from you all. We're in the middle of a 30-day comment period that ends on the 25th. We actually presented to our industry advisory group, BSRC, this morning, took more feedback from them. And I know that Councilmember Harden is looking to put this on in June. I wanted to get it in front of you all to see what your thoughts were, if you had some thoughts. I know one of the things that the industry is leaning towards asking us is actually reduce the number of ready spaces and put in, require more capable. And their rationale was they didn't want wiring to sit in the walls for years unused and unchecked, only to be, you know, decide they're going to use it and then they got to replace all the wiring. And so we're trying to take some level of common sense to how we address this. And so we were comfortable. So you'll probably see the ready numbers drop, but you're not going to see the installed numbers change very much. But unless we get some good compelling arguments, then we're willing to.
Did you have any discussions about time of use? For instance, like if I pulled in and took the last charging spot in the apartment complex, went in and started watching Seinfeld reruns and fell asleep, and John was driving up and down the aisle looking to get a recharge. I slept all night and used up one space and topped off quick.
Yeah, and that is a challenge, and you know, we even have that in some of the parking garage spaces that are open to staff, where some staff get caught up, and all of a sudden the space over there is sucked up for 5 hours instead of just 2. Part of that is we're going to have to rely on the apartment complex owners to set up some rules for how they would, you know, put them on the sign so that you as a driver know and understand what your responsibility is. And I guess kind of like, you know, the way they monitor to make sure you're not, you know, hoarding in your apartment or your condo or keeping trash on the balcony or whatnot. You know, knock on the door and explain it to you, and hopefully you, oh yeah,
Or have time reservations or something.
So yeah, so you know, we're going to leave it up to them because again, we don't have, you know, code enforcement does not have the ability to enforce a parking regulation like that on private property. If it was striped incorrectly, we do have that ability, but lots of lines where we can't cross, others we can.
Well, it's a transition, so that's,
Definitely is, definitely.
it's keeping it open and flexible is a smart move. Anybody else have any comments?
Just wondering if this presentation is available paper-wise, if we could get a printed copy?
Sure, actually, I've got a handout here. I'll make sure you all get.
Oh, okay.
And then-
If it's been emailed, no problem.
This came this afternoon.
Yep, yeah, that's what
It just,
Oh, it's in Kelsey's, okay.
So, and obviously you can reach out to me by email or phone call if you've got questions or ideas and comments if you want.
So since the zoning code is maybe getting rewritten, or studying to be rewritten, I think that the zoning code, when it gets rewritten, should work at incentivizing behavior and not just regulating behavior. If you want to go somewhere faster, put some sugar on it somewhere. And perhaps there is an opportunity in this, since this is a hurdle. When a developer's looking at it, he's going, well, there's another hurdle. What's it he's got? I gotta pay.
That's why $1,000
for
is one of our.
electric parking. So, maybe there's some kind of benefit to his parking number to a certain degree, or some sweetener that incentivizes new code changes. Just
Definitely, Director Messer has told us that he wants us to continue to look for ways to incentivize this. Making it part of the required number, not an additional number, not necessarily an incentive, but at least it didn't hamper developers and require them to add another $25,000 parking space for this. So we will continue to work on that as we continue to build this out. As you said, it's much easier trying to ask for compliance and beat them over the head.
okay, good job.
I have a question.
Sure.
I noticed that you brought up specifically the reduction of the requirement for affordable housing units. A couple, just initial thoughts on that. Primarily that those developers are getting significant tax breaks, and I don't find that they should be getting an additional break from a requirement. And I also find that I live in a community where there is a lot of affordable housing coming in, and they're getting a lot of other breaks on the design, everything else. Kind of a relaxation of things because they are bringing in housing that we need. But I think if the desire is for equity and equity to access of all the things that we all want, then people who are living in those units should also have equal access to people who can afford to live in a market rate unit.
I will take that and push that forward. Yes, we are going to rewrite the zoning code. That's another one of my small projects. So I'm sure I will be back before you all before the end of the year with some initial changes because it's probably going to be a phased in changes. So obviously kind of diverting here. I know I'm keeping you all, I apologize, but we will probably do a lot of focus initially on a lot of the transportation corridors because the real sticky wicket is going to be getting into the neighborhoods and how we deal with changes in those. And we have a huge, very robust stakeholder outreach program across the board. And every city that ran into buzzsaws when they were trying to redo their zoning code, the number one issue was that they didn't do enough outreach, they didn't do enough education, they didn't bring the public along with why they were doing what they were doing. So that's why we're figuring it's going to be at least a 4-year project. We just, Director Messer just signed the contract for the technical consultant and the communications consultant this week. And so we are beginning the early stages, but that's kind of give you a preview of what I'll be back talking to you about is most likely some changes in some of these Lincoln's corridors and major transportation corridors. We need more density.
How much input do you get or are you soliciting from automobile dealers who will be dealing more and more and more in electric cars? Are they weighing in on any of this or is it too premature for that?
I don't know. We've been growing a list close to 1,000 interested parties that had joined and emailed as we went through our process. I don't know how much the auto dealers have been involved with it. I can look. Yeah, obviously we've focused a lot and worked a lot with the building industry because it's going to impact them at least initially. The other piece, I apologize for one more thing at you. The effective date that we're looking at for this is January of 24. Part of that is trying to give the developers looking out for enough time so they're not having to change plans. And actually, one of the gentlemen this morning that does a lot of single family units, he said a lot of the builders, Rockford and other MI, January 24, they're starting to think about 25 for what they are doing and how what their designs are going to look like. So the whole concept here again was trying not to add a burden to them, but be respectful of their timelines. And we still think we can get to the carbon neutral that the mayor wants to, with this being a significant contribution, even with a January 24 effective date.
On those corridors that are essentially going to incentivize high density, can that be in effect before 2024? Because as technically some of the plans haven't been made for those buildings, like Main Street, specifically West Broad, Olentangy. I mean,
The any zoning changes we make to those corridors most likely going to have a 30 or 60 day effective period. It'll be effective within 30 to 60 days. So those buildings will end up, participating in this program because the effective date of this will be, well, it depends on how fast they get designs into us. Like every other time we do code change or code adoption, that effective date, anything before that, we've got to honor where we were. Anything after that, we honor where we're going. In this case, the charters.
so technically, if you adopted this in June, said earlier, then any projects that were going to be put forward on those corridors that haven't been conceptualized would have to abide by this.
If by January of 24, but for the effective date. We got in this deficit of residential housing over a long period of time. I see a lot. I do see some, I don't want to call it an explosion, but some increase in growth along these corridors. But I still think even by January 24, a lot of this will end up impacting those residential units also.
Anybody else? Okay. Call this meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Let's try.
Yes.